Trevor Lawrence. Wow, what a golden boy Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be. Just wow. This is Sports Guy Talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about Trevor Lawrence as he has the Jaguars at an 8-5 record this season. The Jaguars are playing on Sunday Night Football for the first time in forever as they have a chance to get a signature win in front of a national audience. However, the Jaguars lose on Sunday night. A harsh reality for the Jaguars will be there as it would mark their third straight loss if that scenario were to happen. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So here it is. Will Trevor Lawrence perform well against the Ravens? I believe so. I believe Trevor Lawrence is going to go out there and show everybody why he was a #1 overall pick back in the 2021 NFL draft. I believe Trevor Lawrence is going to show everybody why he was considered to be a generational talent and why he was getting compared to guys like Peyton Manning and John Elway coming into the draft, because although Trevor Lawrence has been pretty good so far in the NFL, he hasn't been great. He hasn't been that guy where you could say, wow, he's going to be the face of the league. He's just been pretty good for the Jaguars. He's gotten them at an 8-5 record, which for the Jaguars is phenomenal, but 8-5 is just not going to cut it in the strong AFC. And right now the Jaguars are in first place in the AFC South division. But as far as whether or not the Jaguars are going to be legitimate Super Bowl contenders in the AFC, well, they got to win games like these, because you look at how Trevor Lawrence has done in the games where he's won versus the games where he's lost, and it looks like two different Trevor Lawrences out there. When Trevor Lawrence wins, he's completing over 70% of his passes. He's thrown 11 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. He's played really efficient football when he wins games, and he also plays really well in the run game as well. He's rushed for almost 200 yards in the wins that he has. Now in the games where he has lost, his completion percentage takes a nosedive. He completes only 61% of his passes in the games where he loses, and he has the 1-to-1 TD-INT ratio, and Trevor Lawrence just looks like a bum when he loses games. When Trevor Lawrence plays well, he wins. When Trevor Lawrence plays bad, he loses. That's the trend that Trevor Lawrence has had all year long. And my concern with the Jacksonville Jaguars is, although they are 8-5, they haven't really beaten any good teams whatsoever. Yes, they swept the Indianapolis Colts, who are 7-6, but they got to play the Colts when they were a bad football team. Now the Indianapolis Colts are a good football team, so they didn't get to play against the Colts at their highest peak. And they did beat the Buffalo Bills in London. That was a good win, but the Buffalo Bills are not as good as what people initially thought about them heading into the season. So you look at this Jaguar schedule and you're thinking, wow, they've had a really soft schedule. And whenever Trevor Lawrence has had to actually play against good teams, he's always lost. You look at the 5 losses that the Jacksonville Jaguars have had this year, some of them are pretty bad losses. You look at how they couldn't score a touchdown against the Chiefs. They were a good football team. You look at the fact that they got blown out to the Houston Texans at home. Yeah, the Houston Texans are a good football team, but that was still a young football team. And if you're Trevor Lawrence, that's a game you have to win. I mean, you look at the blowout that they had against the 49ers. Look, the San Francisco 49ers, they're a Super Bowl contender. They're probably going to the Super Bowl this year. Then you look at the fact that they got to play against the Cincinnati Bengals in week 13. That was also another game where they lost. They've already lost 4 games at home this year. They are 2-4 in Jacksonville this year, technically 3-4, but their one home game that they won came in London. So the Jaguars, they've had some troubles at home this year. And then their other loss came against the Cleveland Browns at the Browns. That was because Trevor Lawrence threw 3 costly interceptions for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence has been solid, don't get me wrong, but Trevor Lawrence hasn't made the leap that I thought he would have been making, because last year he threw 25 touchdowns to only 8 interceptions. And I thought, okay, this year he's going to be an MVP candidate, but Trevor Lawrence hasn't played up to that level. In fact, one could argue that Travis Etienne is low-key carrying Trevor Lawrence right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars, because Travis Etienne has had a really good season for the Jacksonville Jaguars at the running back position, but Trevor Lawrence hasn't played up to his capabilities. Trevor Lawrence has been fine, but he hasn't been a great player. He hasn't been that guy where you can say, yeah, he's a top 5 player in the NFL. And the problem with that is they got to pay Trevor Lawrence after this season if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, because this is going to be year 3 of year 5 of the Trevor Lawrence contract, because when you sign a rookie contract, you get 4 years plus the 5th year option. They're about to use up 3 years of that contract, and now they got to pay up Trevor Lawrence big time money. And the thing is, I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to take a discount to stay in Jacksonville, because guys that get a chance to get their first big payday, they're always going to take as much money as they can. And Trevor Lawrence right now is probably going to be taking about somewhere close to $60 million. So let's just say that much, because right now I don't think he's taking anything less than $55 million a year. And Trevor Lawrence is a good football player, but do we really think Trevor Lawrence is worth $60 $50 million a year because I don't think he's worth that much money. I don't think any player in the NFL is worth that much money. Not even Patrick Mahomes. Look at how much Patrick Mahomes is making right now, and he's a two-time Super Bowl champion. But as a result of him making that money, now the team that Patrick Mahomes has assembled in Kansas City is just straight garbage, particularly on the wide receiver core, because of the fact that Kadarius Toney just screws up whenever he has a chance to make a play happen with the football in his hands, or even not necessarily with the ball in his hands either. He's just a scrub. That's what it is at this point. But my point with Trevor Lawrence is that if the Jacksonville Jaguars lose tonight, then the Jaguars have to be a team where you have to say they're not a tier 1 team in the AFC. They can't contend for the Super Bowl. They might not even win their own division if they don't win on Sunday night against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, do I think they will beat the Baltimore Ravens? Yes, because I think Trevor Lawrence is a good football player, and I think he's going to come through in big moments, and that's what he's made for. Because if you guys remember the 27-point comeback that he made against the Los Angeles Chargers last year in the NFL playoffs, then you guys have to realize that Trevor Lawrence is a guy that rises to the occasion whenever the stakes are at its highest. Trevor Lawrence is a good player. He's not a great player, but he's a good player. But I think he has a chance to be a great player if he beats the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday Night Football. My issue with Trevor Lawrence is he hasn't shown that he is a great player, at least on a consistent basis. And Trevor Lawrence has seemed to somewhat regress this year after having a pretty good year last year. And I'm getting concerned with Trevor Lawrence because you could say that he's only 3 years into his NFL career, but you should be seeing signs where Trevor Lawrence is playing great football, and I just haven't seen that nearly enough. I need to see Trevor Lawrence beat some elite football teams this year. He hasn't had a signature win this year. He's just been able to beat up on bad teams and be able to beat up on decent teams. But as far as playing against great teams, the elite teams, as far as we know, he hasn't been able to elevate to that occasion. In fact, more often than not, he has actually shrunk to the occasion. And 2 of the 5 losses that Trevor Lawrence had this year, he didn't even score a touchdown for the team whatsoever. Week 2, they got shut out of the end zone, and then in week 10 against the 49ers, they get shut out of the end zone. The Jacksonville Jaguars are a good football team, but they don't seem to be a great football team. They need to beat the Baltimore Ravens if they want to convince people, including myself, that they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender, because the Jacksonville Jaguars haven't had a Sunday Night Football game in forever, and now they're finally going to get one, which means they need to go ahead and ball out on Sunday night. They need to go ahead and show the world why they are getting a Sunday Night Football game, because the Jacksonville Jaguars are known to be one of the most irrelevant teams in all of football, and for them to finally get a Sunday Night Football game, that speaks volume to the growth of the Jacksonville Jaguars. But Trevor Lawrence needs to show that he can take that next step into elite territory. He hasn't shown that he can take that step yet, at least not yet, but I believe he'll take it and he'll get the job done against the Baltimore Ravens. But you guys have to understand that there's going to be a harsh reality for Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars if they don't get the job done against the Baltimore Ravens, because that's going to be the last true game where you can say the Jaguars have a chance to beat an elite football team until the playoffs begin, because Trevor Lawrence hasn't accomplished that job yet. I'm not saying he can't do it. I actually think he will be able to do it on Sunday night, but I don't think he has been able to prove that he can beat an elite football team just yet. He's been able to prove that he can beat good football teams, but not great football teams. And you look at how the Jacksonville Jaguars have had trouble winning at home this year, so they need to go ahead and take care of that problem. As far as the Jacksonville Jaguars having a Sunday Night Football game at home, that's actually pretty cool to see, because I've never seen the Jacksonville Jaguars play on Sunday Night Football. The last time the Jaguars played on Sunday Night Football was in 2008. That was before I even followed the NFL. It's been a long time since the Jacksonville Jaguars have played on Sunday Night Football, so now that they get this opportunity to play on Sunday night, they got to be able to show to a national audience that they can go ahead and play football at a high level. Well, I believe Trevor Lawrence gets the job done. He's going to complete over 70% of his passes. He's going to throw for 275 passing yards. He'll throw for 2 passing touchdowns. Of course, he'll probably throw the 1 interception, because Trevor Lawrence does like to turn over the football at least once a game. That's just who Trevor Lawrence is as a player, because he is a gunslinger. But you know what? Trevor Lawrence is going to come through and play big boy football, and he's going to make a comeback on the Baltimore Ravens. I got the score being the Ravens 27, the Jaguars 31. So I got 31-27 Jaguars. So that is why Trevor Lawrence will play good enough for the Jaguars, as they will beat the Ravens by the score of 31-27. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That will be for the @Dustin_Tran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Dustin_Tran and at Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter at Dustin_Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel, Sports Guy Talking.